Is Millie rocking still a thing? I don't know. Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber and welcome to episode 2 of this little mini series thing that I'm doing. Welcome back to Do You Remember, the mini series kind of on my channel where we discuss some of the potential forgotten ones of BTCC and we see what they did in BTCC, what they did after BTCC, and if we're lucky, find out where they are now. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Kyle Breeze. So, as always, let's get straight into this. Now, for those of you from Kings Lynn in Norfolk, don't worry, George Russell is not the only representation you've got, because about 20 years ago in BTCC, Kings Lynn residents had Kyle Breeze to support. Kyle Breeze made his BTCC debut in 2002 with the Team Halfords Racing Peugeot 406. As we know, not the best car. And back then, you're probably thinking, Team Halfords, that must have been Team Dynamics. No, in fact not, because in 2002, Team Halfords, under that banner, was actually being run by Vic Lee Racing. Any of you who has been around long enough should know who that is. If not, that could be a whole video in itself one day, who knows. But yeah, Kyle Breeze debuted in 2002 with the Vic Lee Racing Peugeot 406s. In 2002, unfortunately, they were not backed by Peugeot. They decided to pull out straight away after 2001 to pursue other things. So obviously it was unfortunately just an independent team, which meant that they basically weren't going to compete for the championship. But even so, Kyle Breeze had two very decent teammates. One of his teammates was Dan Eves, who would go on to win the Independence Championship in 2002, and of course go on then later on throughout the years go on to win multiple races before he left. And also, one of his other teammates was Tim Harvey, the 1992 BTCC champion. Tim Harvey, in fact, 2002 was his final year of BTCC. So, Kyle Breeze had some very good teammates, but unfortunately, not very good results. He I believe, only had 3 points finishes, which back then was the top 10. So, 3 top 10s in your rookie season, not too bad. Bear in mind, I also must point out Kyle Breeze did not do the full season. He actually entered late into the series. I believe he missed out on 6 races, six or seven, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was 6, so the first 3 rounds back then, because back then there was only 2 races per round. So Kyle Breeze didn't do every single race of the season, but I think to have 3-point scores in a series that, whilst they only had, I think, about 15 cars in the main class A or the touring class. Still, to have 3-point scores, it's not too bad, especially given how, despite the lack of drivers, it was a pretty stacked grid. We had Matt Neal on that grid, Ivan Muller, James Thompson, the 2002 champion, Paul O'Neill, Anthony Reid, Warren Hughes, I believe a very, very young Colin Turkington, a very, very young 17-year-old Tom Chilton. So it was a pretty stacked grid even back then. So yeah, a pretty decent 2002 for Kyle Breeze. He would return in 2003 and actually managed to do the entire season, but with 2 different teams. In the first half of the season, Kyle Breeze stayed on with the Vic Lee Racing Peugeot team, of course, not actually backed by Peugeot, but in a Peugeot, this time using the 307 model, which was terrible. Let's be honest, it is probably one of the worst touring cars ever made, and in fact another video that could be well talked about, the worst touring cars ever. If you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. So Kyle Breeze would run alongside Dan Eves in that Peugeot 307. I don't think he scored any points in that car, but I do believe in the second half of the year when he switched teams to Gary Ailes Motorsport or GA Motorsport in a Vauxhall Astra, that's where I do think he did score points. I do know he did score points in 2003, but yeah, I don't think he scored any points in the Peugeot, but again, I'll put a graphic up if I'm wrong. I probably am, I usually am. But yeah, anyway, so another sort of a meh year, but again, it can be forgiven for 1 year being in a crap car, and then, one half of the year being in a crap car, and then the second half of the year having to get used to a whole new team, blah, blah, blah. But luckily, it wouldn't be so difficult for Kyle Breeze in 2004, because once again, he would remain with GA Motorsport or Gary Ailes Motorsport. Gary Ailes, a former BTCC driver, for those of you who don't know. And, well, whilst he would stay with the same team throughout the year, he would, in fact, switch cars. halfway through. Carl Breeze started out the year in an Alfa Romeo 156 built to the BTCC spec regulations, or actually I do think it was an S2000 spec. Again, I'm not too sure. I do think it was the BTCT spec. And then in the second half of the year for, I believe for about 9 races, so 3 rounds, because in 2004 they began the 3 race format per round. He then would switch back essentially to the Vauxhall Astra, where in the Alfa Romeo he would have in fact better results. He had his best career finish in 2004 with a 5th place finish, which for the team was a great result, and also for him was also a great result given how 2004 was a very competitive year. It's actually a great season. It's one of my personal favourites, if I'm being honest, because not only that, 2004 was the year I was born. I'm 20 this week. Wow. But yeah, anyway, so those would be the 3 years that Carl Breeze would do. As I mentioned, 0 podiums, 0 pole positions and 0 wins, but a best career finish of 5th place, which given the machinery Carl Breeze was in was pretty decent. But it would be what Carl Breeze did after BTCC that would make him a sort of quite a popular name within the TOCA package paddock. So let's get straight into that. So yes, it was Carl Breeze's post-BTCC career that would sort of take off. After BTCC, I believe he did multiple years in what was known back then as the SEAT Cupra Championship, which back then was on the TOCA package and was essentially one of the 2 feeder series to BTCC, because of course we had the Clio Cup and then we also had the SEAT Cupra Championship, which was founded and funded by SEAT UK themselves. And to begin with, it started out as whoever wins the championship gets a fully funded seat with SEAT in the BTCC. And of course, that's how Rob Huff got his start. That's how James Pickford had his one-off year in 2005. But unfortunately, I'm not too sure why, but for some reason that stopped happening. I don't know why that happened. If anyone does know the reason why SEAT stopped promoting their Cupra champions, let me know in the comments below. So Carl Breeze did do a couple of years in the SEAT Cupra Championship, but it would be when he moved to the Ginetta Super Cup where he would make his name on the TOCA package. Carl Breeze debuted in the Ginetta, what was then known as the Ginetta G50 Super Cup, later on to be called the Ginetta GT4 Super Cup, and of course, as we know, it's moved on to British GT. But yeah, anyway, so Carl Breeze debuted in that in 2009 and would take from then on a boatload of victories. I actually don't know off the top of my head how many wins he took. I'm going to have to count them all probably, but he took a chunk of wins multiple times, becoming the champion in, I believe, 2011 or 12, I think. I do know he did win the championship once. So yeah, it was 2011 or 2012 where Carl Breeze would win the championship. Again, I'll put up some stats in the edit. So despite winning so many races and you know, being very successful in Ginettas, Carl Breeze would only win the championship once, which was quite a shock until you realise the amount of drivers that he raced against during that era. He raced against Frank Raffle, a race winner in BTCC, Adam Morgan, race winner in BTCC. 2014, doing my research for this, was a very competitive year for the Ginetta G50 Super Cup, where Carl Breeze would race against the likes of David Pittard, Charlie Robertson, Luke Davenport, a former BTCC driver, Tom Oliphant as well, a race winner in BTCC and Australia. I'm trying to think as well off the top of my head, but it's gotten from me. But yeah, a chunk of talented drivers that Carl Breeze would race against, and he usually beat them. Of course, unfortunately, as I mentioned, only won the championship once. But even so, Carl Breeze was a phenomenal driver. Unfortunately, he hasn't raced anywhere since 2015. I'm not too sure why. I believe it's probably budget, especially nowadays with, of course, budgets skyrocketing through the roof. So that's basically it, guys. That is the career BTCC and post-BTCC of Carl Breeze. Let me know in the comments below. Do you remember Carl Breeze in the BTCC or thereafter, where he would, of course, make a name for himself in the Ginettas? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it, of course, does help my channel grow. And, of course, press that red subscribe button, because we are firmly on the road to 300 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see all of you in the next one. Goodbye.